Hey guys, on this video I'm going to be talking about Euphoria Season 2 Episode 4. It is called You Cannot See, Think of Those Who Can. Another pretentious title, I'll say it straight away. Full spoilers from the start, and this show really is starting to disappear up its own arse. Really sort of style over substance. This episode, I think, is the worst of the season. I think it's just run out of ideas, really. I think it's been shown up as a very shallow sort of show. And the problem is, it's just getting repetitive. It's like they've literally run out of ideas. It's like if they did some original storylines or stuff and progressed the characters, then that would be one thing. But they're really not. Bar the sort of odd character, maybe. There's another love triangle storyline introduced in this episode. Really, another love triangle? Like, we really need that. I'll talk about that. We get the very arty sort of opening with it's Rule and Jules, where Jules is going down on her, and she's basically high, as she always is, and in this hazy sort of state, she's imagining the sex as a lot more enjoyable than it actually is, and we get, which is quite amusing, quite well done, these recreations of these famous movie scenes with them replacing the people from those films. So you get the famous scene from Titanic, you get Sleeping Beauty, you get Brokeback Mountain, the ghost, the pottery scene. So all those with like Jules and Rule in, but the whole thing is then she has she fakes an orgasm because she wants to pretend, and she's so over the top, then Jules sort of suspects she's into it, and or then she's faking it, and she talks to Elliot later about it. But it's I think this show is way too obsessed with sex. It clearly thinks that sex is more interesting than it actually is, and that kids talk so much about it, and or listening to them talk about it really isn't. And the stuff with Elliot and Jules is what I mean about it being predictable, because you kind of just knew then something was going to happen with them, or you're not surprised anyway. I wouldn't say I necessarily called it, but it's no surprise. So they sort of, when she's talking about it and worried about pleasing Rule and did she fake her orgasm, like Elliot sort of tries this out and kind of does this thing on her arm, which is like a test of what a real orgasm sort of feels like, and it leads to them getting fruity. And then throughout the episode, you sort of have this tension between the three of them, and you do sort of get like a love triangle. And by the end of the episode, Rule has gone off the rails again, pretty much. But we've sort of been here before, and this show really, I think, at this point feels very melodramatic. It really hits you over the head with it, because we get this very stylized sequence of, again, Rule, in a drug-filled haze, of her like hugging her dead father and like apologizing for letting him down, and it's like juxtaposed with her like hugging a sort of like a priest in church type thing. But just the way the music is heightened and stuff, it's really melodramatic stuff. But yeah, there's stuff with Elliot and with Jules, as I said, and it's Elliot who at one point tells Jules then Rule it isn't clean like she claims. Big shock there, but she's been taking everything. She took it with me. And I think one of the problems with this stuff is that we don't know Elliot well enough as a character, and he hardly even knows Jules. So the fact that he's telling her this, and it's meant to be this important moment, it just doesn't hit really. I think, and that's the problem with another thing later in the episode. But speaking of love triangle, that they go full pout with the Maddie, Nate, Cassie love triangle in this, and it's just terrible. I mean, they just need to do away with this storyline now. It's Maddie's birthday, so that sort of brings things to a head, and Cassie is feeling just awful because it's her friend's birthday, and Nate and Maddie are sort of seeing each other again, although there's some disagreement over if they are an official thing again. And we get these scenes at the party. There's a couple of terrible scenes. There's a terrible argument scene between Nate and Cassie when they sort of have it out when they've been together, and Nate tries to call her out and kind of said, well, you're not doing all this, or you're not threatening to tell Maddie because you're a good friend and all that. You're just doing it because you want your own way and all this, and tries to turn it around on her then, well, why did you go with me? But it's such an over-the-top scene as well, and they're both so annoying in it, and you just don't care. I mean, why should we care about Nate based on what we've seen of him in the past and stuff? And you kind of don't buy that Cassie would be in this much in pieces about the whole thing. They just hit you over the head with it. It's not subtle at all, and it's just really annoying. The whole thing is tedious, and then there's a scene later at Maddie's birthday party when they're in the hot tub, and there's this back and forth sort of argument, and it leads to Cassie literally sort of throwing up, or vomiting blood in the hot tub, and it's a whole thing, and it's set off because I think at one point one of them says I love you or something like that. But again, it's another really bad scene. And there's little bits with Lexi in the episode. Again, she's left to the side. She's watching from the outside in, which might be part of the meta stuff I was talking about last week. But if there is a season 3, which I'm assuming there probably will be, then I hope we get more from Lexi. And that's I hope she actually takes centre stage. We see rehearsals for her play in this, and they're sort of linking that there's similarities between what's happening in the play and her sort of fractured relationship with Cassie. I might be reading too much into it, but I thought there was even a hint at the end, and the whole stuff with all the rest of the characters might have been her play. They might have been doing that, so literally what's been happening in her real life is what she's putting in the play, and again, maybe getting quite meta. We get a little bit with Kat. She's unhappy with Ethan. Nobody really knows why, including the screenwriters. I have to say, Kat's been sort of given the short shaft this season as well. I mean, they've just not bothered writing her a proper storyline. It's they don't really have a clue what to do with her. I think the most interesting thing in the episode is the stuff with Kel, and they go back to the fact that he's bi or he's gay. He has this homosexual past, and in probably the most beautiful scene of the episode, he revisits a bar which he went to during those days, and he's dancing with a guy. Now, because of it being Euphoria, I'm not too sure if it was really him dancing with a guy or if it was in his head, but it's a nice scene anyway, and it actually works well because of setting that up in a past episode, that he was gay and in the past, and sort of returning to that. And he puts on like a Sinead O'Connor song, which is a song he listened to like back during those days. So it actually works really well. It's a well directed sort of sequence. Now they sort of ruin it by him like getting chucked out of the bar and stuff, and they sort of have to go to a typically blunt sort of Euphoria type place, because he comes home and again shock for the sake of shock, because he literally has his penis out and is starting to pee on the floor, and he wakes like everyone up. So his wife comes out and is like shocked. It's like, what the hell are you doing? His two sons come out and this is when he starts literally say, well, I'm a man, I can fuck whoever I want, and he basically reveals that he's homosexual and stuff, and they're sort of repulsed, and it's like, what are you saying, Dad, that sort of thing. But it's just a really terrible scene, and I think the problem with the storyline is that you don't care enough about Kel to do this storyline. And also, as I said, that scene is over the top and just way too blunt, and he's just being too much of a jerk. So you are kind of on the other side in a way. Good scene. I mean, it's not a total shambles, but it was a real dud of an episode. I think they've really lost their way, and now to have two love triangle storylines is just OTT. So that's Euphoria for the week. Let me know your thoughts if you've been following this show in the comments below. Like and subscribe, share me out on social media, and I'll be back with more TV reviews soon. Thanks guys, see you later.